All right, Monday, August 4th. Working on a 2013 smart car. I think, is that the 451, as I think they call this? It's not the 400 or 450. I think it's called a 451. Can't swear to that. But 2013, we got it. And the head gasket blown on it. We got to change the motor out. Got a motor coming in a couple days. Just want to show you a few things. The key points here. Underneath this runs down the center of your car. There's 3 radiator hoses. They have, I'm just going to try and show you, but the clamps that hold these on there, they're crimped and like pressed on there. The only way to get them off is use a pair of pliers or something and rip them apart and tear them off. And then when you go put this back together, you just go buy some hose clamps. Real actual screwed hose clamps to put it back together. That won't be so bad. This here, these are your emergency brake cables. I'd have to say that was about the hardest part of this whole project. What it is, that spring thing right there. You push, what you do is you have to, while the engine's still in there, all that's still in there, you have to disconnect this. You push down. Oh, I have the e-brake cable pulled. I can't push down it, but you push that spring down and those cables slide right out the 2 sides. So it's sitting like that, and your cable will come, you push this down and your cable will come out and over the 2 sides. You do one side at a time. That's the only way to get that off there. And let's see what else is there. See if I can get underneath here and show you. These. This right here. This went to the starter. Oh, and to get to that, you have to take the starter off the vehicle to be able to get your hand up in there to push that down and get those cables off. This here is just a evap line. Squeeze the 2 tabs on the side and it spreads it open and you can pop it off. This is actually connected to the intake manifold on the engine up here. This is alternator cable. You'll have to get that unhooked from the alternator. This wiring harness, this is the driver's side. This harness comes out of the body and comes down. These 2 plugs were on the back of the engine, about right here. This one's got this metal clip in it. You have to pop that metal clip off to be able to pull it off. This one here had a tab on this side and a tab. I broke that one off, sorry. One of them broke. But you push this tab and it pushes that out, and then you pop that off. And also connected to this same wiring harness are 3 more plugs. I'm getting ready to show you where those go. Those ran along, still the driver's side. Those ran along underneath the engine mount over to the front here. One was plugged into this sensor. I don't know what that sensor is. It looks like a shifter sensor, probably for the light on the dash to tell you what gear you're in. And the other 2 plugs, one went in from this side and one went in from this side. You just, I think I pushed in or used a screwdriver and I pulled out on the tab and was able to pop both those off. So that wasn't so bad to get that whole, that's that whole bundle on the driver's side. This bundle right here that came out, and that's all those plugs on that. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plugs on that one, and that will stay with the car. Okay, the gear shift cable. This is mounted with those 2 holes. That is mounted right here. There's a bolt here and this bolt that went through the whole engine mount. Now you have to loosen all 3 of these bolts, but take this one out, and that bracket slides out from underneath it. And then on that shifter cable, this is the end that actually goes on the transmission that turns the gear select. And right here, where underneath where these plugs were, is where that was bolted on. I think that was a 16 millimeter. Just take that bolt loose, do a little prying, and that pops up off of there. You can't mess it up when you go put it back together because it is like an oval shape, so it only goes on one way. So that wasn't too bad. Always put your bolts back, or your nuts back, that way you don't lose them. Let's see here. That's where the starter was. Pretty simple. A bolt there, bolt there. There was one clip on your starter, and then there was the actual power line itself, which is on this connection right here. This is what was on the starter. This one, and this one ran over to the alternator. So you can't really mess that up. It wasn't so bad. What else did we do? Oh yeah, along the driver's side, you have your 2 brake lines, and you had 2 wire connectors. On one of the wire connectors, I used a Sharpie, a silver Sharpie, just colored it a little bit, and I colored the other side of it. So I know this plug goes together, and I just left this one alone because I know it'll go to the other plug. That's the way it's easy to mark them. Your brake lines are 2 different connections. You can't mix them up. They only go together one way. That's a good thing. Those are just caps that I had laying around that I put on there to keep the brake fluid from leaking out. All right, let's see. Over here on the passenger side, you have this wiring harness. What this did on the passenger side is it came up from underneath here, came through this hole, and was plugged into this computer. Now to get this plug, there's 2 plugs here, top and bottom. To get this plug out, see, there you see it on the bottom, there's this piece and it just slides down. Use a screwdriver or something, slide that down, and it unplugs. Very easy to do, no problem. There was another, like a ground wire or something like that we had done to plug, and then a third. There was 3 wires on this one bundle. That's where the grommet that goes through the metal, keep water out. So you had your main plug on the computer. You had this little plug that ran in here behind the tail lights, and then you had this plug down here. So 3 plugs, and you can just push that down through there and pull it out and bring it out with the engine. There is a couple of little, like this was a fuel line that ran on the, mounted on the fuel rail. Again, it had those crimped on clamps. You just have to replace those with screw clamps. And then over on the right side, this, I'll try to show you. It's hard to get a camera view of that. There was a green clip that you pop out of here to be able to pull this line off. I broke it, so I'm gonna have to order another clip that goes in there. But that, if you remember, that was connected right here on the side of this vacuum system right here. It was plugged in right there. So you might break the clip and you might get it out without breaking it. I tried not to, but you know, that's how it goes. So there was a ground wire. A couple of this was just, where was that? I think it was underneath. I think that was bolted. Yeah, there it is right there. There was the bolt that ground wire was on. Ain't too bad to get one of these out of here. The hardest part, to be honest with you, I think the hardest part was the emergency brake. That was a pain in the butt. Like I said, see, I got the spring on it. I have the emergency brake pulled right now, but when it's not tensioned up, you can pull that down. It pulls the spring up. And then you can slide those cables out of either side. There's one on each side. We did not disconnect the air conditioner. There's 3 bolts, one on top. Probably can't see them, but there's 2 on the bottom. And this is one of those belts that does not have a tensioner. It's a pain in the butt. It's hard to explain. I don't even know what it's technically called, but there's a tool you use to slide the new belt on this. When you go to put it back together, because there's no tensioner and it's the back belt, you got 2 belts on this one. It's a 1.0, which is not the 0.9. So, see, this is the outside belt. It has a tensioner back there. This is the air conditioner belt. No tensioner. The only way to get it on and off is to kind of forcibly remove it. What I'm gonna try and do when I put this back together is just put it on there and then put the bolts in and tighten it down, and instead of having to turn the engine to get that belt on. I think I can do it. I got it off, which is always easier than putting it back on, but I think we can do it. You got a lot of room with those hoses. More than I thought I have. That's why I was so scared to do it. But when you lower it down, the whole chassis, you're able to unbolt that and not disconnect. That way you don't lose all your Freon and stuff. It makes it a little easier. Like I said, there was a couple little random plugs that we had to chase down. Wasn't too bad. Now, I think we got this out in 3 hours, and the first time we've ever done it on one of these cars. Me and my Uncle Terry. That wasn't too bad. Oh, look, there's another ground wire. He disconnected those before I got here. So I'm not for sure exactly where that went, but it's all connected together. They're all certain length. You really can't mess it up. Well, you shouldn't be able to mess it up. But there you go. Oh, and I guess the main bolts, there's 4 of them. 1, 2, same thing on the other side. We used 3 jacks to bring this down. Now, to balance this out, you have to put a jack right in the center of your axle, right here on the back side. Do one there, one on the other side. And you put your 3rd one right here under the front of the tube. And that's what helps, balance it out. But if you just use the 2 jacks on the side, it's possible to do it. But as you see, I put the tires back on it when I lowered it down, and it was just about the right height to slide out from underneath there. You'll have to put your transmission in neutral or something to take it out of park, which is all you have to do is take a wrench on that 16 mil in your gear shift right there and turn it, well, not until you hear it click. You just got to take it out of park. It doesn't matter what gear it's in. And it rolls right back out of there. So, really wasn't that bad. I thought it was going to be a lot worse. Buy yourself a set of star bits, Torx bits, and also buy yourself a set of Torx sockets. You will need them or you cannot do this job. Get you a whole set. Also, a swivel ratchet makes it a little easier to get a couple of the bolts loose, because you really don't have that much access to the top of the engine. But so, screwdrivers, pair of pliers, basic tools you need to take an engine out, stuff like that. I did use the wire cutters to snip some zip ties and stuff like that was in the way. That's it for the most part. It really isn't that bad. We had the wheels off to disconnect everything, and right when we went to lower it, we put the wheels back on it to be able to roll it out from underneath it. I don't know how high I got this jacked up, if you guys can see. But incredibly high. That jack isn't holding it. It's on jack stands. Yeah, I think we jacked it up a couple more inches with the jacks after we had the wheels on it, because, oh yeah, you do have to take off. You don't take off the whole back clip, but this bottom piece right here, blue piece right there, you do need to take it off. And what it is got those, on each corner you have one of those plastic clips that you got to slide the center part out before you can pop it out. And then this other piece had a tab, a clip in there. And once we got those two off on either side, you just take the bumper and you flip it up and slide it out. It pops right out of there. No problem at all. So, yeah, I mean, I think the only thing I didn't show you the air box. The air box has to come out through the driver's side. Now, it is sitting in here like this. What it is, you got a hole there, and it goes on that rubber deal, and you have two bolts. Now you gotta remember, I did all this while it was still in the car. Those two bolts have to come out, and then with a little bit of wiggling and finagging, you can get it wedged out through the driver's side wheel well. That is the only way you're gonna get this out of there. I guess that's how they changed the air filter too, because I couldn't see any other way to change the air filter better than pull this completely out of there. Actually, it wasn't that much fun. And remember, there's 3 clips here. There's one in the middle and one on each side. And those can get caught on some stuff in there, but just like I said, wiggling and pushing and pulling, eventually it will come out of there from sitting there. That was the first thing we did, was pull this off. I know I'm not doing this video in order. I'm sorry, we did this kind of rushed. But this is the other side of that air box. That's where the air comes in, and it runs up in there and is connected with a plastic piece. I was able to just disconnect it right here, slide it out of the way, and then I was able to pull the air box out this way. So that's it. It really wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. They're getting a little better engineering these and making it a little easier to change out, because apparently this is a pretty common problem to have. But so, yeah. The brake lines and those 2 wire plugs are just right here on the side. They had that plastic deal. I just unscrewed it and unclamped it. Came right off there, no problem. Really wasn't that bad. You leak a little brake fluid, you leak some antifreeze. You know, it's just part of pulling a motor. You're gonna have fluids leak out. So no, I didn't cut a single wire. Didn't cut anything. Everything had a plug. Everything was able to come apart. So that's better than the earlier models or later models that you actually had to cut the wires and re-splice it back together. So yeah, I can't do anything else really. New motor will be here in 2 days, and we'll get it in here and get started on it, pulling this one out and putting it in. But like I said, 3, maybe 4 hours. Me and my uncle, the only 2 guys that did it, and it didn't take us. It really wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Now, granted, he did. You know, he took the fender plastic out. He had some of this stuff out by the time I got here, but yeah, heck of a project. Apparently, this is a big problem with these cars. The head gasket's blowing. There you can see where I strapped. I didn't disconnect the air conditioner. I just got it held up by a bungee cord. So you ain't got stress on the metal lines, but you got rubber here. So you got some room, you got some flexibility when you go to pull that out and put it back together. So saved all the Freon on that, that's good. Plus I didn't have to worry about breathing that crap in when I let it go. But yeah, that's it, not so bad. I'll give you an update when we get down to the next part of it, switching the motor out. See you guys later.
Thank you.